This is Pluto, and this may be the last image of Pluto that we'll ever see in our lifetime. 20 years ago, NASA launched a spacecraft called New Horizons on a historic mission to Pluto. After an incredible 9-year journey across the solar system, the spacecraft finally reached its destination. What it captured stunned not only the world, but even the scientists themselves. Soon after, rumors began spreading that NASA had quietly abandoned all future missions to Pluto. But why? What exactly did NASA see on Pluto that made people believe no spacecraft would return there anytime soon? What secrets are hidden within this mysterious world? What does that giant, heart-shaped feature really mean? Why is part of Pluto covered in a reddish color? And why did I say this could be the last image of Pluto we'll see in our lifetime? Once considered the 9th planet, Pluto was later stripped of its planetary status. Yet, despite being pushed to the edge of the solar system and out of the list of planets, it remains one of the most mysterious worlds we've ever discovered. I'm Sean, and today we're diving deep into the story of Pluto, the most overlooked and misunderstood world in our solar system. In this video, you'll discover fascinating science, astonishing facts, and intriguing mysteries about Pluto that may completely change the way you think about our solar system. So make sure you watch until the very end. And if you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel now. Let's begin one of the most extraordinary journeys ever made through our solar system. The 19th of January 2006. From Cape Canaveral, Florida, NASA launched the New Horizons spacecraft aboard an Atlas V rocket. Its destination was the mysterious world once known as the 9th planet of our solar system, Pluto. New Horizons left Earth at an astonishing speed. While the Apollo missions took about 3 days to reach the Moon, New Horizons crossed the Moon's orbit in just 8 hours and 35 minutes. But why did it need to travel so fast? Because Pluto lies at the very edge of our solar system. On average, it is about 5.9 billion kilometers from the Sun. Sunlight takes only 8 minutes to reach Earth, but it takes nearly 5 hours to reach Pluto. While Earth's average temperature is around 15 degrees Celsius, Pluto's average surface temperature is an incredible minus 232 degrees Celsius, making it one of the coldest known worlds in the solar system. To gain even more speed, New Horizons performed a gravity assist as it flew past Jupiter, using the giant planet's immense gravity like a giant slingshot. This technique, known as a gravitational assist, shortened the spacecraft's journey by nearly 3 years. Even with that incredible boost, it still took 9 years for New Horizons to finally reach Pluto. At last, on the 14th of July 2015, New Horizons made its historic flyby of Pluto. During those precious few hours, it captured and transmitted the first close-up images of the dwarf planet back to Earth. Those images completely transformed scientists' understanding of Pluto. But before we explore what New Horizons discovered, let's first answer an important question. Why was Pluto removed from the list of planets? To understand that, we have to go back to 1894. That year, a wealthy American businessman and astronomy enthusiast named Percival Lowell founded his own observatory in Flagstaff, Arizona. The observatory was built to study the night sky in search of new celestial objects. Lowell was fascinated by one question: could there be another planet beyond Neptune? Convinced that such a world existed, he named this hypothetical object Planet X. For years, Lowell and his team photographed the night sky, carefully comparing image after image in the hope of finding it. Then, in 1915, their telescope unknowingly captured Pluto. The tiny point of light was there all along, but no one realized what they had found. They assumed it was simply another distant star. Ironically, the reason was hidden in Pluto itself. Despite its great distance, Pluto is surprisingly reflective. Thanks to the ice covering much of its surface, it reflects a significant amount of sunlight, making it much brighter than its size would suggest. Yet with the technology available at the time, no one could distinguish it from the countless stars in the background. In 1916, Percival Lowell passed away, never knowing that the mysterious Planet X he had spent years searching for had already appeared in one of his observatory's photographs. But scientific progress didn't stop there. In 1929, a young astronomer named Clyde Tombaugh took over the search at Lowell Observatory. The task before him was anything but easy. Today, because of light pollution in most cities, it's difficult to see the night sky clearly. But if you live in the countryside and look up on a clear, moonless night, you'll be amazed by the countless stars scattered across the sky. This is exactly the kind of sky Clyde Tombaugh worked with. Every few nights, Tombaugh would photograph the same region of the night sky. He would then compare those images, looking for any tiny point of light that had changed its position. The reason was simple. Stars are incredibly far away, so from Earth's perspective, their positions barely change over a few days. But objects within our own solar system move against that fixed background of stars, making their motion detectable. To make this painstaking search possible, Tombaugh used a device called a blink comparator. The machine rapidly switched between two photographic plates taken days apart. The distant stars appeared perfectly still, but any object that had moved seemed to jump back and forth before the observer's eyes. After countless hours of searching, Tombaugh finally made his breakthrough. On the 18th of February, 1930, he noticed that one faint point of light had shifted its position between two photographs. After repeated observations and careful verification, astronomers confirmed that this mysterious object was none other than Lowell's long-sought Planet X. The discovery made headlines around the world. Humanity had found a new world beyond Neptune, but one important question remained. What should this new planet be called? To find the perfect name, Lowell Observatory invited people from around the world to submit their suggestions. Nearly 1,000 names were proposed. Among them was one suggestion that would become part of history. It came from an 11-year-old girl in England named Venetia Burney. After hearing her grandfather describe the newly discovered world, Venetia imagined a planet that was incredibly distant, cold, dark, and hidden at the edge of the solar system. It reminded her of Pluto, the Roman god of the underworld, a realm of darkness far from the warmth of the sun. She suggested the name Pluto, and astronomers immediately recognized how perfectly it fit. There was another reason the name was especially meaningful. The first two letters of Pluto, P and L, also matched the initials of Percival Lowell, the astronomer whose search had inspired the discovery decades earlier. As a reward for her suggestion, Venetia Burney received £5 a modest prize for a name that would become famous around the world. But despite its remarkable history and worldwide recognition, Pluto's status as a planet would not last forever. In August 2006, the International Astronomical Union, IAU, made a controversial announcement. Pluto, they declared, was no longer a full-fledged planet. Instead, it would be classified as a dwarf planet. To understand why, we first need to look at the IAU's official definition of a planet. According to the IAU, a celestial body must meet 3 criteria to be considered a planet. First, it must orbit a star, in our case, the Sun. Second, it must have enough mass for its own gravity to pull it into a nearly spherical shape. And third, it must have cleared the neighborhood around its orbit. In other words, its gravity must be powerful enough to dominate its orbital path, either absorbing, ejecting, or controlling other objects of comparable size. A true planet doesn't simply share its orbit, it gravitationally rules it. Pluto meets the first 2 requirements. It orbits the Sun, and it has enough gravity to pull itself into a nearly spherical shape. But it fails the third criterion. Pluto has not cleared the neighborhood around its orbit, and that's not the only thing that makes Pluto unusual. Unlike the other planets, which orbit the Sun on nearly the same plane with mostly circular paths, Pluto follows a much more elongated elliptical orbit. Its orbit is also tilted by about 17 degrees relative to the plane of the solar system. Because of this unusual orbit, there are times when Pluto actually comes closer to the Sun than Neptune. At other times, it travels much farther away. To be clear though, Pluto was not demoted because of its tilted or elliptical orbit. It lost its planetary status because it failed to clear its orbital neighborhood. Let's make that a little easier to understand. In 1992, astronomers David Jewett and Jane Liu discovered a new object beyond Neptune. As more observations followed, scientists realized that Pluto wasn't alone at the edge of the solar system. Beyond Neptune lies an enormous region filled with countless icy bodies, rocky objects, and frozen debris known as the Kuiper Belt. Within this vast belt are many objects that are similar to Pluto, some smaller, and some even larger. Then, in 2005, astronomer Mike Brown discovered another distant object called Eris. Surprisingly, Eris also had its own moon, just like Pluto. This created a serious problem for astronomers. If Pluto was considered a planet, then Eris should also qualify as a planet. And if Eris was a planet, then many other Kuiper Belt objects would deserve the same status. That would mean our solar system wouldn't have just 9 planets, it could have dozens. To solve this problem, astronomers revised the official definition of a planet. From that point on, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune were recognized as the solar system's 8 official planets. They all orbit the Sun, they are massive enough to be nearly spherical, and they have gravitationally cleared the regions around their orbits. Since Pluto failed to meet the third requirement, and because it shares its orbital region with many similar Kuiper Belt objects, it was reclassified as a dwarf planet. In other words, it's planet-like, but not a full-fledged planet. Now, remember how I mentioned at the beginning that NASA sent a spacecraft to Pluto? Making that mission happen wasn't easy. Scientists had to fight for years to secure funding and approval. There was even intense lobbying to convince decision makers that the mission was worth pursuing. But that's a story for another day. Now let's talk about what New Horizons actually discovered when it reached Pluto. The very first thing that caught NASA scientists' attention was a giant heart-shaped region stretching across Pluto's surface. From a distance, it almost looks as if this tiny frozen world, sitting at the edge of the solar system, has painted a heart across its own chest. Scientists named this iconic feature Tombaugh Regio in honor of Clyde Tombaugh, the astronomer who discovered Pluto. The bright, smooth western half of that heart is called Sputnik Planitia. Now, take a closer look at the images of Pluto. Across most of the surface, you'll find countless impact craters, towering mountains, deep fractures, and ancient scars left behind over billions of years. But here's where things get truly fascinating. While almost the entire surface of Pluto is covered with craters and signs of immense age, Sputnik Planitia is astonishingly smooth. It contains almost no impact craters at all, a discovery that completely surprised scientists and hinted that Pluto might be far more geologically active than anyone had ever imagined. Scientists believe this region is geologically young. Why? Because if Pluto had been a completely inactive, frozen world for billions of years, its surface should be covered with countless impact craters left behind by asteroids and comets. But Sputnik Planitia has almost none. That discovery led scientists to a remarkable conclusion. Pluto isn't just a dead, frozen ball of ice. Something is still happening beneath its surface. When New Horizons took a closer look at the heart-shaped region, scientists made another surprising discovery. What appeared smooth from a distance wasn't actually smooth at all. Instead, the entire plane was covered with enormous polygonal patterns, gigantic cells with 5, 6, or even 7 sides stretching across the icy landscape. But what created these strange shapes? From orbit, they look a bit like the cracked mud found in a dried-up lake bed. The problem is, there is no mud on Pluto. So what are they? The answer is nitrogen ice. Many people have seen liquid nitrogen here on Earth, but Pluto is so unimaginably cold that nitrogen freezes solid, forming vast glaciers of ice. Scientists believe Pluto still has a warm interior. Heat slowly escaping from its core causes the nitrogen ice to rise toward the surface. As it reaches the top, it cools, spreads outward, and gradually sinks again. This slow cycle is known as convection. In simple terms, the nitrogen ice covering Pluto's heart is constantly flowing, almost like an incredibly slow-moving ocean. The movement is far too slow for human eyes to notice. But over hundreds of thousands to millions of years, that gentle motion has sculpted the giant polygonal cells we see today. Now, if you look closely at another part of this region, you'll notice countless small pits scattered across the surface. At first glance, they almost resemble the tiny holes made by crabs on a sandy beach. So, does that mean there are aliens living on Pluto? The answer is no. No evidence of alien life has ever been found on Pluto. So what caused these mysterious pits? Pluto's environment provides the answer. Even though sunlight is extremely weak that far from the sun, and Pluto's atmosphere is incredibly thin, a small amount of the nitrogen ice slowly turns directly into gas through a process called sublimation. As that ice disappears, it leaves behind countless tiny depressions and pits, giving the frozen plain its unusual texture. Those crab-like patterns are simply the natural result of this slow geological process. Scientists also believe that millions of years ago, a massive celestial object slammed into Pluto's surface. The impact carved out an enormous basin, a deep scar that would later become one of the most fascinating places in the solar system. Over time, that giant depression filled with frozen nitrogen, carbon monoxide, and methane. Eventually, this vast sea of exotic ice evolved into what we now know as Sputnik Planitia. Now, just as Earth has one natural satellite, the moon Pluto also has a moon called Charon. But the relationship between Pluto and Charon is unlike anything else in our solar system. Earth is much larger than the moon, so Earth's gravity dominates the system. That's why the moon orbits Earth and is tidally locked, always showing us the same face. Pluto and Charon, however, are a completely different story. Instead of Charon simply orbiting Pluto, both Pluto and Charon orbit a shared center of mass, known as the barycenter. In other words, Pluto doesn't just have a moon. Pluto and Charon perform a graceful cosmic dance, revolving around one another as equal partners, a rare and extraordinary relationship found nowhere else among the planets of our solar system. Just as Charon is tidally locked to Pluto, always showing the same face to its parent world, Pluto is also tidally locked to Charon. That means the same side of Pluto always faces Charon. Imagine standing on Pluto. If you were on the side facing away from Charon, you would never see its moon in the sky. But if you stood on the opposite side, Charon would hang overhead forever, remaining in almost exactly the same position day after day. It's one of the most extraordinary relationships between a planet-like body and its moon anywhere in the solar system. Scientists have another fascinating hypothesis. Beneath Pluto's thick shell of ice, there may be a vast ocean of liquid water hidden deep underground, possibly even deeper than Earth's Mariana Trench, the deepest known place in our oceans. To be clear, New Horizons did not directly detect liquid water beneath Pluto's surface. Instead, scientists inferred its possible existence by studying Pluto's shape, internal structure, and the way its surface appears to have evolved over time. Another of Pluto's great mysteries is its unusual reddish color. If Pluto were simply covered in clean ice, it should appear bright white. Yet the images sent back by New Horizons revealed something very different. Large portions of Pluto's surface are reddish brown, while some regions are so dark they almost appear black. Why? The answer lies in Pluto's incredibly thin atmosphere. It is composed primarily of nitrogen, along with small amounts of methane and carbon monoxide. As ultraviolet light from the distant sun strikes these gases, it triggers a series of complex chemical reactions. Those reactions produce large organic molecules known as tholins. Tholins have a distinctive reddish-brown color. Over millions of years, these molecules slowly settle onto Pluto's surface, coating parts of the landscape with a dark, rusty red layer. If you look closely, you'll notice something even more intriguing. Pluto's largest moon, Charon, also has a reddish stain covering its northern polar region. Scientists believe that methane escaping from Pluto's atmosphere drifts across space toward Charon. There, it freezes onto the surface and is transformed by sunlight into the same reddish tholins. In a way, Pluto hasn't just painted itself red, it has also left its mark on its closest companion. But New Horizons didn't stop at Pluto. After completing its historic flyby, the spacecraft continued deeper into the Kuiper Belt. Scientists wanted to study some of the oldest and most primitive objects left over from the birth of our solar system. There, New Horizons encountered Arakoth, a small, frozen world that has remained largely unchanged for more than 4.5 billion years. Its discoveries there are a fascinating story in their own right. But that's a journey for another day, because Pluto itself leaves us with something even more meaningful. Once, humanity called it the ninth planet. Later, humanity took that title away. People debated it, criticized it, changed its classification, even changed the way they described it. But did Pluto ever change its course? More than 5 billion kilometers from Earth, Pluto never stopped orbiting the Sun because of what people chose to call it. It never complained. It never abandoned its path. It simply continued its journey, following its own orbit, at its own pace, carrying its own mysteries. And perhaps there's a lesson in that for all of us. No matter how much criticism you face, no matter how many labels others place on you, never abandon your own path. Stay true to your purpose and keep moving forward. So, what did you think of Pluto's incredible story? And before we wrap up, let's answer one final question. Why isn't NASA planning another mission to Pluto anytime soon? The main reason is priority. Right now, NASA is focusing on places that may have a much greater chance of supporting life, such as Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, and Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Compared with Pluto, these icy worlds are considered far more promising in the search for extraterrestrial life. For that reason, it's unlikely that NASA or any other major space agency will launch another mission to Pluto in the near future. Instead, scientists are concentrating on exploring the hidden oceans beneath the icy surfaces of these distant moons. If those missions succeed, they could bring us closer than ever to answering one of humanity's oldest questions. Are we alone in the universe? If you'd like to learn more about that incredible search, be sure to watch the next video. That's it for today. If you liked this video, don't forget to leave a comment and share your thoughts below. I'm Sean, and it was a pleasure being with you. Until then, stay well, stay healthy, and I'll be back soon with another exciting adventure.